All right, so it's 5 after. I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am recording this and I'll do my best to get the copy of the recording out to you guys. Just a couple of housekeeping items. The Wi-Fi in the building here is just called Larimer County. It's an open network. Feel free to connect to it if you need it. Emergency exits are basically right there, outside for the lobby doors. And then the bathroom is outside the store and it's directly underneath the stairwell. Before we get started, does anybody have any questions for me? And feel free to interrupt me as we're going through it. This is not going to take the full amount of time. There's the times that we've done it, it's taken maybe an hour, and then we leave the rest of the time up for any kind of troubleshooting or to answer any of the kind of questions that you guys have. So with that said, I'm Tom Richard. I'm the application support specialist for the Larimer County Department of Health and Environment. So I work primarily out in Blue Spruce, and I've got two of my colleagues here. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Noelle Udell with the department. I'm the environmental health specialist lead in air quality. So myself and Jessica Boyer, my colleague, we review burn permits for the air pollution side of things in accordance with AQCC regulation 9 at the state level.
And I'm Leah Schneider. I'm our air quality supervisor and environmental health planner, and I'm back up when they need me.
So today what we're going to do is we're going to review the new burn permit system. We're going to go start to finish, basically go through every part of the system you guys will interact with. We'll show you how the actual burn permits are submitted, the notifications that get sent out, and then we'll work through a permit to show you all the fields that you guys will need to edit. Right now in the system, we've had to do things a little bit backwards. Oh, before I get off the rails here. Our go live date right now is September 1st. And the reason for that is because the IT department at the county needs to update ArcGIS to a new version, which will break the existing burn permit system. And the goal was always to transition over to a new system. We have HealthSpace, which is the system that we currently use for a bunch of other parts of environmental health, and burn permits is going to integrate into that. So with that said, I'm going to go through a system review for you guys. Basically, in terms of infrastructure, the entire thing is cloud-based, very similar to what we had previously. Last one, or the last version was actually sitting on county servers. This is actually maintained by our vendor. In terms of system requirements, it's browser agnostic, it's hardware agnostic. I do recommend that you guys use Google Chrome. That's what we use for our testing, and it seems to work really well. But we do have some folks who use Firefox and Edge, and they haven't had any issue in either case. So with that said, we're going to show you guys basically two parts of the same system. I like to say that they're kind of opposite sides of the same coin. One part is called myhealthdepartment.com, otherwise known as MyHD, and that is what members of the public are going to use to log into the system to submit their actual burn permit application. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, looks like perfect. So this is what the landing page is going to look like for MyHD. And for all the links that we go through here today, I'm going to send follow-up email and make sure you guys have everything. So anything that I'm clicking on, you guys will be able to see. Basically, what they would just need to do is log in. The only thing that they'll need is an email address. There'll be a couple of other links basically linking to the burn permit application, which is what this is. We did our best to try and mirror as many of the existing features in the current system into the new system here. So a lot of the questions are going to be nearly identical. With that said, it wasn't a perfect fit for a lot of different things, but we did our best. Oh, hey, if you would mind signing in, we have an agenda and we just got started a couple minutes. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to walk my way through this entire permit. We're going to fill it out, and I'm just going to put in some dummy data in here. It's going to need first name, last name, and anything with the red star with it is a required field. All right. So here's where the submitter will be able to identify where they're actually going to be burning. They can select a parcel on the map and select that location. They also have the opportunity to search for their address if they want to do that. Let's see here, Spruce, our Fort Collins location. Just have to hit verify. And so that's gonna pull up all that information. And this is tied into Larimer County Assessor for a lot of the data. So it's going to have things like parcel number, elevation, and the fire protection district in which the address is located in. So I'm gonna say that this is the same address as the burn location. I'm just gonna add some special directions. The intended burn start date, I'm gonna set for today with an end date of the 20th. And I'm gonna select an agriculture burn. Gonna be burning. Let's just say 10 acres of weeds. Yeah, I do not need a CDPHE number because this is an agriculture burn. We've also asked people how they're gonna get water to the site, and if it is an agricultural burn, how does it support the actual agricultural activities? If they want to provide some additional comments, they can. And then there is a final acknowledgement. So basically it goes through all the things that they need to basically certify that, yep, they own this land, they're allowed to burn here, they're only burning approved things. They will say that yes, they agree with it. They're gonna pop in their initials. And at this point, if they want to upload photos, they can. So I'm gonna upload. Test photo there. And I hit upload. And there it is. So at this point, I'm gonna hit submit. It gives them one opportunity to look through everything, make sure everything is good. Once we hit OK. My health department is now going to share or show up on this page. This is the test version. And then we have a splash warning, basically saying you do not have permission to burn. Fire Protection District is going to reach out to you, await further instructions, essentially. So at this point, my HD has that submitted burn permit application, and now it is routed it to HealthSpace. And HealthSpace is the system you guys will primarily be using in order to review permits, receive notifications, et cetera. The name of the vendor is actually HS GovTech Solutions. They've changed their name just a couple of times. But if you see HS, that typically means HealthSpace, and we just refer to it as HealthSpace as shorthand. So at this point, I'm going to double check my email here. And I got a notification that, hey, there was a new burn permit that was submitted. And it's this one right here. And it will also send a link to the burn permit in question. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log into HealthSpace first. And again, I'll send you all these links. Once we log in with password, you'll have an opportunity to sign into one of two different systems. So we had to do things a little bit backwards because of the way MyHD works. We are currently building this product out in our production environment, not in testing, not the best practice, but in order to get things to work with the live website and to test applications, that's how we had to do it. So what you guys will do is you'll select this DHE option, or DHE, and not staging. We will be doing a backward sync from production to our staging environment. So you guys will have a sandbox that you guys can log into and do what you want. But just be mindful that you are operating in a live system. At this point, we only have test records in there. We do have an export from our IT department, and we will be sending that to the vendor to import all of the historical records going up to August 8th. So I'm going to select DHE. I'm going to log into the system here. And you can see it pulled up right to the permit. But in terms of your permission sets, you're probably just going to have at the top menu here, one thing called burn permit applications, which is going to take you to this page. So this is the list screen view. It kind of gives you a bird's eye view of everything else that's going on in the system. At the top here, we have filtered views or custom views. We've set these up so that it makes it a little bit easier for all of you guys to just take a quick peek at whatever particular active burns are going on, or if you wanted to look at all permits that have been denied. We can create these so that they're shared with all of the fire protection districts, but you guys will be able to create your own views based on all the items within a burn permit. So if you need special information regarding agricultural burns or things like that, you can create your own filtered view, save it, And then you have access to it whenever you need it. Any questions before I go on? Okay. So again, this is the list screen view. There's some additional columns you guys can add. These are just the defaults. Everything's checked that shows up on this screen. So again, you can add, if you needed to see date that the burn was set to active. Or if you wanted to just remove something that you don't need, same deal. And then you just hit save view, give it a name, and then hit save as new view. So what we'll do, I'm going to refresh this page. And we're going to go to this. Sorry, my Zoom gets in the way here. So this is the record that we just submitted. So it has a unique identifier, this open burn permit ID. And this is the application date. And when it arrives into the system, it's going to have submitted for DEH approval. That just goes to Noel, myself, Leah, whoever else at the health department initially receives these. And the status is always going to be as received for new burn permits that come in. So at this point, we're going to do our initial review of the entire thing. We can review all the items that were in the burn permit application. You can see that everything did come over, all the text that we put in. And when we get down here where it has communication log, this is where the bulk of your work will actually take place. So we do have a communication log. So if you wanted to add an internal note, I was going to say it's farmhouse. This will create a log for you, so you can kind of go back and see, okay, here's what we needed to communicate to either department, health staff, or if you just needed a note for future reference, where you could put it. On the right-hand side, you'll see that there's also record history, so we can see who changed what on a given record. At this point in the system, you will only have access to records that are assigned to your fire protection district. We are working with HealthSpace to basically tweak it so that you will be able to see all of the burn permit records in the system, but you will only be able to edit once they're assigned to your fire protection district. That's something that we're working on. But right now, if you were to look at it, if we don't have a dummy record in there for you, you're not going to see anything. So later today, my goal is to create a record for all the fire protection districts, just so that there is something in the system for them to look at. So with that said, I'm going to go through the rest of this. We do have basically pre-canned comments that we can add onto an actual application. So the communication log, that's internal only. Nothing in this is going to show up on the actual burn permit, but be mindful other folks in the system can read these. And then down here, if you guys have common instructions that you know every single time you're going to basically need printed on a permit, you can select it and it's going to populate with some text. And then if you need to go in and edit it, you can. So it's drop down and edit. Right now we've got some in here, but I believe I sent an email out yesterday to all the fire protection districts asking, well, basically letting you guys know who's been set up for notifications in the system. And if you have pre-canned text, what that text says. So if you guys do know, hey, for these kind of burns, we need to always have it say this. Let me know what you would like. We can create one for you for your agency for a specific type of burn. We're not really limited by anything here. This will probably get unwieldy if we have like 100 of them. But as long as we can keep it reasonable, I'd be happy to add whatever kind of predefined text you guys want. So this will show up on the permit. Just going to select that. Perfect. So again, we're still doing our initial review. At this point, we're going to forward it to you guys. And check things here. Get Poudre Fire Authority. So we're going to assign it to you guys. And we're going to put the date it was assigned. And here is where that upload went. So if we needed to download or look at anything that came up, Save there. And at this point, I'd like to hammer this home. In order to save any of the changes you've made to a record, you're gonna have to hit save changes. We've had some initial growing pains when people would put stuff in there, they'd go back a page and then they'd come back to this one. All of their comments, all their edits had been erased. So just make sure that you always hit save changes. Once I do that, there's some logic that gets built into this form where it updates certain fields. And you'll see that there were a couple of things that flashed up there on the screen. That's the form basically doing its own calculation and seeing what fields have what text and showing and hiding different parts of the form as is necessary. So right now, Poudre Fire Authority should have received an email notification. At that point, basically saying, hey, here's a link to this burn permit. The burn status is now under review. And I'm going to scroll down here just so that we can touch on this part again. And then there is the step. So the status is what we like to refer to as the actual status of that actual burn. So what is actually going on with that burn? The step is kind of where the permit is in a workflow process. So, it came to us, we're routing it to you, it's been approved or denied. So now we're just going to simulate as if you're logging into the system. You can see burn status currently under review. You're going to review all the things in here. And based on what you see and what kind of communication in your workflow process, you're going to be able to change your step from forwarded to either approved or denied, or you can reroute it to us if we got the fire protection district wrong. We know that boundaries sometimes aren't as clear as they should be. So I'm going to hit approved for this. You can see that there's some additional things that pop up. We need to put in the date that we're approving, and we need to put who approved it. And again, I'm going to hit save changes. Perfect. At this point, the submitter will receive an email notification stating, hey, your burn permit's been approved. Here's a link to the PDF for your burn permit. At this point, I want to touch on just one of the issues that we've had with HealthSpace, and that is not necessarily their fault. It's just how email works in 2025. So the emails generated from the system sometimes get eaten by firewalls or spam rules, or an ISP just decides to block them sometimes because it has a link and it's coming from kind of a weird address. We shouldn't say weird, just an unknown address that it hasn't seen before. And so a lot of times what things will do is they'll end up in spam or in people's trash. So if that is something that is happening to you, if you find it and mark it not spam, what it'll do is it will hopefully, for all future messages, it'll just drop it right into your inbox. With that said, I know that a few folks have had issues logging into the system because they haven't gotten emails. I'm happy to work with you after the session. We'll get you signed in. We'll double check to make sure all the links that work. I like to say this because when you are approving a burn permit, there's the potential that the person who is supposed to receive it, it just goes to their spam and they don't know where to find it. Or it goes to the trash or just never makes it, depending on what their firewall rules are like. So what we recommend is once you've approved a burn permit, you'll be able to download that same permit just by clicking up here where we have print forms. There's one for burn permit approved and one for denied burn permit. And then this one's just the old one that we just need to get rid of. And this is what the burn permit will look like in reality. So it has all the information that was captured on the burn permit application, valid dates, all that kind of good stuff, what kind of burn it was, the information there. This is something that we are still currently working on. I have a ticket in with the developers. Basically, we're going to get this set up so that each fire protection district has their own specific notification sets, because I know you guys all have different numbers. Different folks need to be alerted when something is going to be burning. So we're going to have that updated here shortly. My hope is to have it by next week. You can see here, hey, here's our applicants, for our comments. Basically, we had nothing to add. And then here's your fire protection district comment from drop down and edit. We've also got the requested date down here. So this is the burn permit itself. And if we were to say, oh, we made a mistake, or there was something else that we needed to fix here, because they got sent a link, if you went back into the burn permit and you did your edits, let's say, your text was incorrect. And we need to update that. When this gets refreshed, those instructions are gonna update as well. So it sends them a link, it doesn't send them the actual PDF, so that can make it a little bit easier on you folks to catch something right away. And then, yeah, we still recommend that you do follow up with an email to them saying, hey, if you might have already received a notification that your burn permit has been approved, but just in case you didn't, here's one from us saying, hey, yep, it's been approved. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of zooming through it.
Just real quick, just to confirm, when the applicant plugs in their dates for their permit, they can still put any range as long as it's within the appropriate window, like for slash burns from October to May or whatever it is.
So it does not have any restrictions on it right now. That is one thing that we tried to do based on elevation, but the logic to get that built out is actually just really gnarly. So right now, that's something that, yep, they can basically set any kind of date ranges that they want.
Well, that's what we wanted for slash burns, but I'm just curious if that had changed, so.
I didn't see on the printed permit, does it display what they are approved to burn?
So let's pull it back up.
Yeah, I'm thinking of people in the field, like our engine pulls up on and report of an out of control fire or something like that, they want to verify that they're approved to burn.
Yeah, so it does here, basically, the only thing on this test record that I have is 10 acres of weeds. But for ag burns, there were a bunch of other fields, ditch debris piles, fence row, conveyance ditches, all that kind of good stuff. So that will basically say, hey, the burn type is agriculture burn for ag, these fields pop up. And then for slash, if I go back here, we'll just change it really quick so we can see all those options. But yeah, we do have some different things based on if this was a slash burn. Well, we got number of acres, number of tiles, pile diameter, all that kind of good stuff. So we tried to match it as best as we could to the current system. And I'm actually gonna hit back on this.
I just didn't see that, maybe you're just going faster than.
I know, I have a tendency to just talk.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just gonna check my notes, make sure I didn't go off the rails any more than I typically do. That's. Okay, so now we're gonna simulate basically, hey, this is the day of the burn. We've got a notification based on the phone number that we're gonna have on that burn permit. Farmer Bob calls in, says, I'm gonna start burning some stuff today. Dispatch is gonna have a login, so they will need to have access to this system as well. They'll identify the record either by the name, they can search by the address, they can search by the burn permit ID, they can search by all that kind of good stuff. And then we've also got eligible burn permits. So here's a list of all the burn permits right now that have been. That makes it really easy for folks to find out, hey, it's this burn permit that we're talking about. So on the day of the burn, all that dispatch has to do is log in here. Then they'll let the page completely load. And they're going to turn this burn status from inactive to active. And then they're going to set the date. So let's say they started burning tomorrow. Come on. Go. Save changes. Cool. So what that does, if I go back screen. When we set a burn to active, it's going to show up on active burns on our map. So this is going to show you all of the active burns in the area. And it's going to update this whole map. So these filtered views dictate how this map behaves. So if you wanted to just take a look at all the active burns in the area, that's one quick way of doing it. Actually see it. The other thing that we've got set up is there is a publicly available map of all of the active burns going on in Laramie County. And this is the website. Again, I'll make sure to get you guys all the links. This is does not require any kind of login. This will just be a link directly from our webpage to as part of my HD that does not require login. So anybody can log in or anybody can actually access this link and see what's burning in the area. So our current workflow process right now is, hey, this is an active burn. There should not be any overnight burns. So the following day, a member of our staff is going to log into the system, identify all of the burns that were started the previous day, and we're going to mark it as complete. And the reason we want to do that is so that we can see, hey, here's when the burn actually finished. And if there was reignition, we can see, well, that burn is not supposed to be burning anymore. So we'll have an idea then of basically when they are finished. The only caveat to that is we do have on the burn permits themselves, they need to call in every single day that they plan on burning. So if they're going to be burning for a solid week, every morning they'll call in and say, hey, this is my burn permit number. Dispatch might notice that it already says completed. They'll just change that back to active. And then again, following morning, DHE staff is going to log into the system, mark everything that was active back to completed, and then the process will start or restart that. Question.
So when you do approve that, you know, call them, is that what you're talking about? They'll notify, you'll give a notify that they activated that one, or just for this?
So what will happen is that burn permit gets submitted to, or it is delivered by the notification system in HealthSpace to the email address that they provide. And then on that burn permit, there is a number that says, hey, you've got to call this. So that is probably how your fire protection districts are going to first hear about it, saying, hey, I want to burn. At that point, we don't have any notification rules set up to send out another notification that this is an active burn, but we can look into that if you'd like to see, hey, for if these conditions are met, if it's in this fire protection district and this burn is set to active, notify these users. So I'm going to take a quick note because
So I always put in notes like, please call you as well, but then people get a little teased of how much stuff they read and look at and stuff, and then half the time I get a call and half the time I don't get a call. And then when we're chasing smoke down, because we get like one boulder pound slide saying there's smoke, and then we're chasing those and find out in fact, they did call it that. I'm just trying to.
We require to notify our fire department to with an email or a call, either one. That way dispatch knows, we know.
You do that in the notes.
It's in that note you were talking about, that goes out automatically, and it's right near the top.
And I don't think they see that.
Yeah, they just,
people do have to read it. It is the thing.
I was just saying, if you guys have to activate on your map, it seems like it's pretty easy programming to actually send out notification who is tagged for that, but.
We can look into it. It's not something that I've set up before, but it would be very similar to, hey, if this is an active burn, we just have to create a notification rule for each of the 16 fire protection districts.
Yeah.
So we can do that, because we can have that tied to kind of the same behavior that gets sent out when a burn permit is routed to you guys, because we do have email addresses for everybody on file. It doesn't even have to be a HealthSpace user in the system. We can send it out to any email. Again, the caveat being, man, that first email really has to be found and then marked as not spam. Again, that's just been one of our growing pains.
Question for you too.
Sure.
We're the oddball in the room, we dispatch out of Weld County. So when you say the dispatch had a login, I'd be willing to bet my dispatch doesn't. And they wouldn't. So my guess is that when they call in, we look at the active 911 notification, that we should be the ones that go in and switch it over to active.
Yes, I think that would probably work well for this particular use case. We can also get them set up with the HealthSpace login. All I need is some pretty basic information. First name, last name, email address, and position at the agency that they're at.
I think that's with their little bit.
Perfect. I'd be happy to get them set up with this. And, same for any of the other users at your organization. If you need another one, let me know. As a best practice, I recommend that one HealthSpace user be linked to one actual person. I know that that's not always possible, and that there might be a single catch-all email address that you guys are using or sharing. It does make it a little bit more tricky for us to do some kind of troubleshooting, or if something comes up with a burn permit record, to identify who changed what, if that's the case. So I like to recommend that everybody have their own HealthSpace user. If something comes up with your user, let me know. I have admin access to that part of the system, so we can reset passwords, we can update email addresses, we can change names, we can add contact information, all that kind of fun stuff. Any other questions before I go on? So again, I just can't hammer home enough. Make sure to save those records. It's burned me more than a few times. And then I've already gone over some of the other limitations in the system. HealthSpace is pretty flexible, but we are playing within an existing framework. So there are some things that we just can't change. But we do have some pretty good degree of customization in the system. Right now, again, we're still working on some permission sets for users, so you will be able to see all permits, but only edit your own. That I think is going to be coming here shortly. And right now we are still working on some smaller issues with the print forms. So this open burn permit, again, this phone number works for some folks, but not for others. And I have a pretty good idea why. It's basically pushing the numbers further down outside the text box. So it's showing up, but it's not a place that actually would be on the permit. So that's kind of the training. The other thing I did want to mention on the agenda at the very bottom is my contact information. So that's my email address and that's the health department's phone number. Feel free to call me if you have any questions or if there's any kind of issues. You can also reach out by email. I'll create a ticket for you in our ticketing system just so I can track it, and then we'll get you guys all taken care of. So at this point, I can open it up for questions, and let me check in with Leah and Noel. Was there anything that you guys wanted me to cover in greater detail or anything that I missed?
I missed this, but did you go over the cash?
Oh, thank you. Yes, perfect. So one thing, because this is in constant development right now with us, one of the things that most likely is going to come up for you folks is when you're in here testing, or when you're in here and we make a system change, your browser has cached files from HealthSpace that are then out of date. So HealthSpace makes this really easy for us to fix. All you'll need to do is select on your username and select clear cache. And what this is going to do is it's going to delete all the temporary files stored on your browser, specifically for HealthSpace, and it's going to reload that page with the most recent configs. So when I make a change to the burn permit, and you guys are working off an old version, and you guys hit burn permit approved, and you want to see the actual burn permit itself, yours could be out of date. And then clearing that, that's going to fix 99% of the problems that you're going to have. And then, yeah, in terms of support, feel free to reach out to me. Phone, emails typically best, just so I can get things rolling. But if you can provide a phone number, I'll you guys follow a phone call, and we'll get you all taken care of. So with that, kind of curious, show of hands, who has been able to log into the system? Got a few, perfect. Who has had issues logging into the system? Cool. And who needs a user? Cool. So I'm going to make myself available for the next hour or so. So if you come up one at a time, we'll get you guys all taken care of. Wanted to thank you guys for coming out. Really appreciate it. If you guys have questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out. I'm going to stop the recording now. And at this point, we are done. So any other further questions? Oh, shoot.
I might have missed it, but so if people have applied for burn permits in the past with the old system, the first time they go to apply for a permit this year, it's gonna look different to them. Do they have to make, I guess, do they have to like make a login and make an account the first time,
They do.
like this year?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
so we're not able to carry over the authentication mechanism in the current system to the new system. All that they will need is an email address. We realize that some folks who are burning are not very tech savvy. If that comes up, feel free to direct them to us. We can get a permit put into the system on their behalf and get things rolling. But yeah, in the workflow process that we have currently set up, they will need to log into MyHD. Again, registration's super simple. All they need is an email address that's not already in.
And then that will carry over to the year forward.
Correct. Yep. At that point, they're going to be able to use that existing or that new username and password to log into MyHD. And yeah, they will not be able to see a history of their submissions. So that is one thing that's a little bit different. If they do need that, let me know. HealthSpace is actually pretty decent for exporting data. And I'll show that to you guys too, just in case you have any things other things that you are curious about. We'll double check and I'll check the permission sets for this as well. But this is one of the features that I like about HealthSpace. If I want all the data from this, what we can do is that I might need to set this up for it. But what we can do is there's typically an option, I just have to enable it, for export of all records. And at that point, it just spits out an Excel file, so we can do our pivot tables, we can do all that kind of good stuff. Oh. Let's try that again. Update. Sure. Let's try. Here, okay. There we go. So yeah, under actions, and then I just have to check a box that basically says allow mass export. And then we can just kind of run our reports for what we need to do for our quality and reporting to the state. But you guys can also do the same thing. Again, health space is pretty data heavy. So whatever we put in, we can typically get out in terms of the CSV file. I like to do that for troubleshooting stuff. Any other questions?
When you say people can contact you if they're having problems, who specifically you or that's me?
As well as us, we'll be sure to get, like, if you have to put an IT ticket in or something, we'll do that on your behalf. So you have Noel's contact information and I think Jessica's. So it'll just be kind of normal. I'll help you out too.
I can use all the help that.
Yeah, that's what I know. We can help filter it before you get it. Cool. And the historical information that we're importing into the system, it'll be available to fire department as well.
Yep.
That they can go in and research a property and see if they have past permits.
Yep.
We're also trying to figure out now too, if we can put notes on an address. Say if they were naughty and you're like, I don't really want to issue, this property has had issues in the past. We're trying to get notes to file for that address so that you guys can refer to that too.
Right.
You're gonna help me get, I'm gonna change my password, change my email address,
Sure, thanks. Well, stop.